what is ADOS? Could just start basic square one for us. This night school, break it down for us.
Well, square one is Antonio Moore and I started having some conversations about wealth, right? Like what is the wealth disparity? Where does it come from? And the most important part is like, can we make that up? And what we realize is that you can't make it up with income. So you have to have the wealth. Well, the problem is that wealth has been plundered for those of us who are American descendants of slavery, the institution. So the conclusion that we came to was, in addition to the suite of policies that you need, anti-discrimination, all that sort of stuff, you have to have reparations to get the wealth that you're owed, right? Because we're not in a boom America right now where during that time when everybody was creating wealth, we were taken off the board. We were like the shoes that white people and America used to build the wealth, but we didn't get any of it. And so the movement is kind of built around that repair, that redress, and that's how we arrived here.
So one thing you said was getting at wealth versus getting at income. What's the difference from my audience? What's the difference between wealth and income?
Well, income is what you get paid, right? When you think about wealth, I want you to think about inheritance, right? What do your people have to pass down to you? We have a lot of conversations about with us, we get the funeral bill. We don't get passed down the wealth. We don't get passed down the money. We're in the greatest wealth transfer in American history right now, where white boomers are about to leave their kids bulks of money. We don't have any of that. And it's no fault of our own. So when I talk about wealth, some people get confused because they're like, well, I make okay money. Making okay money or even good money is not the same as wealth. It's not the same as assets. It's not the same as that. Most of us have money in the homes, and those homes are even mostly owned by boomers. Those pensions that they have, which they try to count as wealth, is boomers. So we don't really have anything. When you look at like Gen X, millennials, whatever, we don't have anything because there's nothing to pass down. There's no flow to us, and money flows down. It doesn't flow up. So instead of you having to pay for mama or daddy's funeral, there's supposed to be a bulk of wealth that comes down to you. And so that doesn't come down to us because of what America allowed to happen to us. And so when we talk about that, the question then becomes, you're going to need that inheritance in America because America's America. Right. And so the only way you get it is through reparations. You don't get it through a job. You don't get it through work. You're not going to get it through stocks. We just saw an evisceration of stocks. And that's because I believe a lot of boomers have died. Antonio Moore talked about it on his show. Like, you look at it, it just cleared out a bunch of stocks that quote unquote Black people had, which are mostly ADOS. So the question becomes, how do you live in this America without wealth? And you can't. Because that's the thing that sustains you in an America that isn't providing opportunity anymore. It's providing gig jobs, et cetera, et cetera. The thing that anchors you to American life now is you having wealth, which we don't have because it was plundered, right? So here we are in this reparation space now. So
when we talk about reparations, and I've been an advocate of reparations most of my life, one of my first organizing and activist sort of activities was as a teenager, joining some of the local reparations movements. We were not as precise. The conversation about who got them was kind of like taken for granted, right? It was like Black people gonna get them. Now, what constituted Black people? We didn't unpack. We said Black people, and a lot of us were Pan-Africanists. A lot of us identified even as Black nationalists, but we weren't leaving people out of that equation. We weren't putting people into that equation. We just said we want reparations for Black people. And the logic was that Black people everywhere in this hemisphere suffered from slavery, whether it was in the Caribbean, whether it was here, whatever. ADOS has a different take on this. Talk to me about why the specific justice claim for American descendants of slavery, and talk to me about sort of how you arrived in that place.
Well, the thing is, we actually have the take that everybody else has around the world, right? When you look, you see like even African countries are fighting for reparations, whether it be from Belgium, whatever European country. You see CARICOM fighting for reparations for their people, right? But they never say, well, we got to go include ADOS. We got to go include Black Americans. We got to go. They never say that because it doesn't make any sense. And it's never made any sense. I think we have always tried to be inclusive, but you have to ask yourself, the majority of Africans came to this country post-2000. The rest came post-1990 because of a change in the immigration law. So how do you tell an African who just got here, right? If you're talking about post-2000, I graduated from Howard in 99. So you're telling me somebody who came after that is entitled to the same thing that somebody who came before that and had an inherited experience that went from slavery to Reconstruction, sharecropping, convict leasing, mass incarceration. That's an accrued disadvantage of 400 years. You can't put that person beside that person and say they're owed the same thing. This is exceptionally true too when you have one person, right, who voluntarily immigrated to this country. You have another group of people who were brought here as chattel slaves, who were sold over here as slaves, right? So we had no agency in that. So you have to separate those groups and figure out who is owed. And in terms of America, now I have no problem. Like I said, when other countries do it, I have absolutely no problem when they say, hey, this is just mine. I have not seen any African country or any Caribbean country say we're going to include, ADOS in our justice claim. So I don't see why we would be, why we are kind of imposed upon to include other people in our justice claim.